Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. The Trump campaign has announced plans to flood Iowa with supporters on the stump Monday for the first votes in the 2020 race for the White House, the Iowa caucuses. Obama won Iowa by almost 6 points in 2012. Trump won it by 10 points in 2016. The early caucus votes don't necessarily pick the ultimate winner, but they can give candidates momentum. And Scott Thuman is here after spending a week in Iowa.
That's right. And what we found is that part of what makes this cycle different than past ones is age. Yes, you have a handful of candidates who are in their 70s, but you've also got 3 who are in their 30s and 40s, and they're altering the political landscape a bit. Just as every 4 years, Iowans can rely on cold winters countered by hot political rhetoric, they can also count on seeing some of the same candidates again.
Our democracy is broken.
I've been proud to stand with labor my whole life.
They're familiar with Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and other big names trying to hit all 99 counties. But this cycle...
I'm not a career politician. Most of you know that.
I am so glad to be among you as we come to the final days.
There are some youthful newcomers and self-described outsiders causing voters to give a second glance. Pete Buttigieg, once the country's youngest mayor of a city with more than 100,000 residents, is packing gymnasiums and old factory floors with those who believe his youthful energy is just what the party needs.
A lot of great experience. Biden's got a lot of great experience, but at the same time, and I'll vote for him if he's the guy, but at the same time, I do think that it's time to have some new ideas.
Happy birthday to you. Buttigieg, a true millennial, turned 38 the day after our interview. There are, a handful of candidates at this point who are roughly twice your age. A handful of leading candidates. Yeah. Does America need a younger president?
Well, I do think that America is ready to turn the page, and one way to do that is by empowering a new generation of leadership. You know, in the last 50 years, winning Democratic nominees have had certain things in common: being new on the scene, not having run for president before, not being viewed as creatures of Washington.
But his age isn't the only way he's opening minds. How big of a factor do you think being openly gay either helps or hurts you in this race?
You know, I actually don't think that it will be that big of a factor on most voters' minds. And I say that because I think every election, fundamentally, it's about one question that a voter is asking. And it's, how's my life going to be different if you're president instead of you? If I have the best answer to that, then I think a lot of these other things kind of wash away.
Thank you, Iowa.
At an Andrew Yang event in Newton, Iowa, the American Legion was a solid mix of already committed and just plain curiosity seekers. Those wondering, who is this entrepreneur getting people to wear math hats? That's Make America Think Harder. Voters are getting an altogether different vibe via the Yang Gang, supporters who literally have lifted him to a popularity few would have predicted.
Well, this is a candidate we haven't seen, and we just thought we should take an opportunity to see him.
He's got some completely different ideas.
He, too, had a birthday on the trail, turning just 45.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
He's definitely breaking out by breaking the norms, like hosting our interview in New York over a game of basketball. You were labeled the internet's favorite candidate.
Yep.
How do you get that to translate to the voter's favorite candidate?
We're going through the greatest economic transformation in our country's history, and we need big solutions and a new way forward that's going to help Americans day to day, like my freedom dividend of $1,000 a month for every American adult, which we can totally afford.
So you would defend against the critics that might even label that a gimmick?
One of the recipients, Jodie Fassey in New Hampshire, was car repairs to visit her daughter. For Mallory Shannon in Florida, it was heading back to school at the age of 68. So that's what the $1,000 a month means in real life.
Oh. Longtime journalist Kathy Obradovich says the new names are also bringing updated issues to the table.
I think that they bring something different into the discussion. So, Andrew Yang, for example, talking about the future of the workforce with AI. You know, he's a computer guy. That kind of thing, I think, probably wouldn't have been discussed very much in this race had he not been here. You know, Pete Buttigieg, of course, bringing a generational perspective in saying that there are people who are serving in the wars that I served in who weren't even born when they started. Those kind of messages to try to help maybe the older voters sort of connect with the fact that, yeah, we're voting on people's futures here, not just us, the older generation.
It is so nice to be here with you. My goodness.
Certainly not as young, but still fitting that came out of nowhere mold is billionaire Tom Steyer, who spent more than $100 million of his own money and touting causes that often take a back seat.
But the difference is this: I'm an outsider. I'm not talking about it. I've been doing it. You can look at 10 years of success of taking on oil companies and beating them for clean energy, of taking on tobacco companies after they'd won 17 times in a row and beating them and getting a $2 a pack tax and giving it to Medi-Cal. You know, I have a history as an outsider. I'm also the only person, Scott, who will say that climate is my #1 priority. The only one. That's different from everybody else because I've been doing it.
He's now attracting mosh pits of media and trending enough that even his tartan tie has its own Twitter page. To Iowans, it's an abundance of riches. Getting to choose from the tried and true who polls show may be best able to beat Trump, or the fresher faces with their own way of enthusing.
Thank you, Council.
Do you sense that the youth vote is shifting away from people like Bernie to the younger candidates?
A little bit. Yes, is a little bit. But overall, Bernie Sanders has a major edge when it comes to the youth vote still. There was a New York Times poll not too long ago. It showed that for young voters, people under the age of 30, he was still garnering 40% of that vote. The next closest was Pete Buttigieg at 16.
And what about the woman vote?
Well, it's interesting because women are represented more in this race than we've seen in any past cycles. You've got Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, both who got a co-endorsement of the New York Times. That's never happened before. Elizabeth Warren got the Des Moines Register endorsement. So big, strong showing from women there. You also have Tulsi Gabbard still in it, and 3 who were but have dropped out: Marianne Williamson, Kamala Harris, and Kirsten Gillibrand.
And briefly, there are Republicans running against Trump, apparently.
There are. You may not know it or remember, but there are 2 others who jumped in quite a long time ago. Bill Weld, the former governor of Massachusetts, 2-term governor, he's in this race. And Joe Walsh, who was once on the Trump bandwagon and became a really strong critic of the president. So both of them are going for it, even though they know that's a big, long shot.
All right. Great piece. Thanks, Scott.